Hello everybody and welcome back to the Hungry House Husband. Today I am doing red beans and rice. And while my Cajun food experience is basically limited to places like Razoo's, my wife is part Cajun and she said this reminds her a lot of her grandpa who was a Creole. So I'm guessing that counts for something. So here we go, let's get this cooked. So the first thing we're going to do is take our bacon or pancetta, whichever you decide to get a hold of, and put that into a large pot and get it rendered down and crispy. Now once the bacon is nice and crispy and rendered, we want to add into that nice hot bacon fat our holy trinity, so our celery, and then our onion and bell pepper, and then let them go ahead and simmer in that, stirring sort of frequently until the onions are tender and don't have a whole lot of crunch to them anymore, which should take somewhere around 10 minutes or so. Now that that's nice and tender, we're going to go ahead and add our salt, our pepper, our Cajun seasonings, and get those nice and mixed in. And then after about 5 minutes, we'll go ahead and add our diced sausage, along with the garlic, parsley, and the thyme. One thing about red beans and rice, when at this point you don't want to ever let it sit in one position for too long, so you want to stir constantly. Never let it sit more than 5 minutes or so without stirring. Now at this point we want to go ahead and add in our beans that have been soaked at least overnight, our broth or stock, and our bay leaves, and then we're going to reduce this to a simmer and we're going to let it go on its own for 2 hours. Now at this point you want to taste it, adjust for salt and pepper and heat if you want to add some cayenne if you're into that. The wife doesn't like it, so I don't do it. But this is where you come to a crossroads. And that crossroads is, do you add this to your rice or do you add the rice to the red beans and sausage? I obviously add the rice to the beans and sausage. I do this because it's easier on cleanup, it's easier to store, and you don't have to worry about leftover rice just kind of floating around your kitchen. It does help the texture quite a bit. It flavors the rice, putting it into the broth as well. Now my rice is not fully cooked. It's about half cooked to 3/4 cooked, and you want to make sure that it's not completely fluffy and cooked and ready to eat because it will get mushy. But this, letting it into the broth and letting it go for about another 10 minutes or so before eating really does help the texture, and it also soaks up some of that extra broth as well, so that you don't have to worry about having more of a soup than red beans and rice. And there we have it, red beans and rice. Really great Cajun flavor in this. You can modify it, add the heat. If you want to put the beans and rice, or the beans into the rice for individual servings, that works perfectly fine. It's just personal preference. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, or hit me up at my blog or my Facebook page Either way, would love to hear from you. Love to hear some suggestions on something else for me to cook. So until then, may your life and your food always have flavor. Bye-bye.